Attorney-General Queensland. I might start with the reason why we're here today and then get on to the other topics. But there is no doubt that youth crime is the number one issue in Townsville at the moment. That is something that we get through our electorate offices. It's as clear as day. And quite frankly, it is time for action. We made a commitment to review the Youth Justice Act. We did that last year. We said that we would bring it to Parliament in the first quarter of this year. Today, I'm announcing that that will happen in the first sitting of Parliament in early February. This can't come soon enough. Now, some of the changes include the ability for detention to no longer be the last resort, for these young offenders to be named and shamed, and for their history to actually be taken into account when they go to adult court. We cannot continue to deny this as an issue. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road and somehow this hope that it's all going to get better. We have to get tough. And if you combine the boot camp initiative with tougher sentences, I think the mix will finally start heading in the right direction after 20 years of inaction. And before I ask Superintendent Catchell to say a few words, I think it would be right and proper to ask Sam, as a local member who's done a power of work on this, to make some comments.
Look, these announcements today are about the government doing things differently, and it's about a government listening to the people of Queensland. These legislation that will go through as soon as we resume Parliament are actually putting responsibility back on these juveniles itself. We've heard from the public, we've listened, and the Attorney-General's listened, and David today has announced that they will come in straight away as we get back to Parliament. It's about the kids themselves taking responsibility. We know it's not the end that's going to fix everything, but we do know that these kids themselves need to start taking responsibility. And these bits of legislation that are now going to come in at the first sitting of Parliament will ensure that those kids themselves have to start taking responsibility for their actions.
And Glenn's got some decent facts and figures as well.
Yes, David James. It is one of my greatest concerns in the Townsville district, the rate of juvenile crime here. It's an Achilles heel for this community.
You're right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute Achilles heel for policing in this community. The rate of juvenile crime. It's been one of our greatest challenges and something we constantly prioritise and endeavour to achieve the best outcomes possible. But certainly the legislative changes will certainly be of great benefit in our enforcement and should give us a great deal more latitude to ensure accountability of the individuals concerned, and they'll be responsible, and they will be accountable for their actions. This is the greatest issue from our perspective. Just to put it into context, just in the last 6 weeks, I mean, this is just the Townsville community, the Townsville district. There's of the 36 arrests in relation to unlawful use of a motor vehicle, 61% of these individuals were juveniles, 16 years and under. So that highlights the scope of the problem in relation to break and enter offences in the Townsville district in the same time period. 41% of juvenile offenders, 16 years and under. So the legislation is certainly timely, but certainly it will be a benefit, and I most certainly hope those benefits can be reaped by the Townsville community, because I, for one, and I'm sure the rest of the Townsville community are well and truly weary of the actions of these recidivist juvenile offenders and the impact it has on the Townsville community.
Well, I'm not quite sure, I know you probably can't talk specifically about legislation that much, but I might just ask you one question, and one that would probably relate most to you, and that is the making breach of bail an offence. Obviously your officers would be the ones out there who will be catching those people who will be breaking those bail conditions.
Yep.
Do you think that would be effective?
Oh, it's certainly an option. We currently, most of the juvenile offenders here, we seek bail conditions on them, curfew conditions, and we constantly conduct curfew checks, and we're constantly disappointed the fact these juveniles aren't adhering to the bail conditions, that they're out there continuing to commit crime, and they ultimately are arrested and dealt with those in relation to those criminal matters they commit. But it's certainly any measure whereby the conduct of these juveniles is moderated, regulated and controlled in some way, it's certainly a benefit.
And among your officers, can you give us some sort of feeling of the level of frustration?
Oh, there is frustration there, but it's most certainly it's we can dwell on the past, but the avenue of legislative change is certainly something we're appreciative of, and my belief is it will have real benefits to the Townsville community particularly and wider beyond that.
That's to David.
All right, well,
we might just ask you, why did you think it was necessary to bring this through to the first sitting of Parliament?
Because this is the number one issue, and you've got to, if you're given a position in Queensland, in the Parliament, you're there to serve the people who put you there, and this is the number one issue, bar none. And I know it might seem like a petty matter for those who haven't been impacted, and I know it might seem a petty matter for those who don't live in regional Queensland, but this is it. This is the number one issue. And surely, if you work hard, get your house, raise a family, put a car in the garage, you deserve the right to wake up in the morning and know that that car is there and your family is safe. And we have had a culture of the same group of people going in and out of our courts. The same culture, the same people. When you have a law that says detention must be a last resort, surely we've lost our way. That just does not make sense. There needs to be a myriad of options. Some people can be turned around. The boot camps will be a great initiative for some people, but there are others who need to be locked away. And not locked away with an Xbox and a bucking ball and all sorts of things that we've seen in the past, but locked away. That is the only place for some people. Sometimes you've got to be tough because there's 99% of the community out there who just want to get on with their life. You've got to crack down on those who are spoiling it for them.
Could naming and shaming is coming back to the corner?
Sorry. So put it up on the top of it. Yeah, that's, and face it towards Dave. Yeah. Thanks, sorry. Yeah.
Could naming and shaming become a badge of honour, so?
I don't think so. And ultimately, that'll be a matter for the legal system to make a determination on a case-by-case basis. It won't happen on the first time. Everyone can make a mistake, but not everyone can continue to make the same mistakes and go before the same courts and be let out time and time again to do the same things. That's the problem. We've got a culture where the same people are reoffending time and time again, and we've got to do something different. We've got to throw different things into the mix, and if that works, great, let's use it.
Do you
There's
think
been a strong opposition as there has been in support for these changes, but realistically, how do you think they're actually going to pass?
Well, there's a big challenge to the Labor Party and to the opposition to get behind them. I'm very, very confident that our party is going to back them 100%, and that includes those in the city area. This is a real issue. Now, it's more relevant to regional Queensland than anywhere else, but surely it doesn't matter if you live in Brisbane or Barcaldine. If you work hard for something, you deserve to have that something, and you deserve to have a family being protected. And I just don't think any reasonable Queenslander would think otherwise.
The naming and shaming of offenders, could that include opening up the Children's Court to media?
I think there is an opportunity for that to occur, and I think it's a must in some cases. Again, it's not for me to determine whether or not which cases that should be used, but there are times where you need to let the sunlight shine in, and there are times when these people need to be shamed and named, and unfortunately that hasn't occurred enough, and I think there's an opportunity there. It's only one thing. There are many other things that need to be thrown into the mix, and we mentioned the breach of bail. I still think getting rid of this nonsense of detention being the last resort, I still think that's number one on my priority list.
Do you think repeat offenders will understand fully what it means if their juvenile, criminal record is shown in the adult courts?
Well, I can tell you what they know at the moment. They know that no matter what they do, that there's a revolving door that continues to see them doing the same thing the next week and the week after that. Something's got to change. I know there is going to be howls from the left. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. But you can't keep doing the same thing. You can't keep going through the same motions, protecting the same people and leaving the majority of decent people exposed. Something has got to change. We said 12 months ago this was going to be reviewed. We did. We went out near and far, and the results were overwhelming. And here in this community, I think it's as prevalent as anywhere. Something has got to change. Something has got to be done differently. And I just can't wait for February.
We've seen hiccups when legislation's rushed through in the past. Are these reforms ready as they are?
Oh, very much so. You'd be hard pushed to find a greater level of consultation on anything. I think they strike the right balance. But I say this, maybe there's further reforms that need to occur. And maybe those further reforms are actually making it a little tougher in time as well. I don't think we should stop until this issue's been pulled into line.
Has the government's legal advisors had any issues with this legislation?
No, we've been very, very, very thorough with this, but I make the point really clearly. if there are things that need to be changed, we will change them. My criticism over the years has not been from governments not being thorough enough. My criticism is governments actually haven't done anything. They've just sat in a malaise, waiting for things to occur. So, yes, we're doing things. And when you do things, you might make mistakes. I acknowledge that. But I tell you what, at the end of it, you're going to have a safer community. And if things do need to change, if you need further amendments to tighten it or toughen it, by all means we should. But that shouldn't mean we should sit around forever and do nothing. That's what we have. That's the reason why we're in the problem we are at the